Our growing-up memories are often fragments, brief moments, or a canter, which together form the scrapbook of our life. There we derive the wisdom and knowledge so deep that they cannot be wished away. My name is Professor Deji Fashui, and here are my good old days reminiscences. Although I was born in Akure, Ondo State, my dad, Chief Gabriel Oluwadare Fashui, hailed from Ilogbo Ekiti, Ido-Osi local government area of Ekiti State, and Mom, Florence Idowu Fashui near Folabis from Ado Ekiti. Dad retired as the program manager of Ondo State Agric Development Program, while Mom retired as a senior matron in various government hospitals in Ondo State and later Ekiti State. As the second child of 6, growing up was beautiful as we were categorized among children of the elites in a completely egalitarian society where civil service was a leveler and devoid of the present commonplace of bribery and corruption. In those days, anyone living beyond his means was immediately ostracized and seen as a leper by the community. Only permanent secretaries could ride Mercedes and Volvo cars. The saving grace for a lot of public civil servants then was the Udoji Lajes. My mom was one of the beneficiaries. As a nurse, she was able to buy her first car, a Datsun 180K, sometimes in 1975. Prior to that period, the whole family had to make do with my father's Peugeot 504, and of course a manually driven car. Don't just start imagining how the whole family will cramp themselves up in that car for a family outing. Yet we were generally contented and there was dignity in labor. In those good old days, education was compulsory and largely free at primary school level for everyone in the southwestern part of Nigeria, including Akure where I grew up. There was no class discrimination or distinction in schooling as virtually all schools were government owned. I remember with nostalgia that my parents decided to allow us go to St. James's Primary School barefooted like other children, not because they couldn't afford the shoes, but because we must not be different from other pupils. I ended up becoming the senior prefect of the primary school, representing the school in various debates and quiz competitions frequently organized by government at the time. I left St. James's Primary School for the prestigious Christ School Ado Ekiti, where I had the greatest foundation and molding like many other peers at that time. Those days in Christ School Ado Ekiti afforded us the opportunity of meeting colleagues from different ethnic groups in Nigeria, especially those from the eastern and midwestern part of Nigeria. We cultivated their cultures and found a blended midpoint of interaction devoid of animosities. We were simply members of the same family. Till date, most of us set mates as of that time still find it funny reliving our lives and times at Christ School. Still, no class segregation in spite of our individual achievements. Nobody cared if you are a high court judge, captain of industry, governor, or a big name somewhere. Everybody goes by his first name, and your name is your name. God save those of us with bad aliases in those days. Mine shouldn't be called in public. Please don't come on this thread and spill it out. Oh, don't just come and spill it out. Exciting good old days. My undergraduate days at the University of Ibadan were also relished with nostalgia. Life was simply good and a lot tolerable. It was survival of the fittest, as nobody tells you when to wake up, eat breakfast, or go to class. It was my first total freedom from home, and I did not bungle the opportunity as some of our friends were christened NFA, no future ambition. Life was not as riotous as it is today, although there were few cases of spoiled brats who will do anything to lure us to exotic life on campus. But I was already fully formed in the secondary school, and the Christian ethos were never compromised. I must confess, we had our own fair share of pranks in those days too. Dad and Mom, if you are listening, let me apologize in advance for this disclosure. I remember we would steal Dad's car key for some midnight parties without his knowledge, even while living under the same roof. We would push out the car outside the compound before starting the engine, travel occasionally with the car, arrive back home safely before the family morning prayers, wash the car, and we would pour a lot of cold water on the bonnet to cool the hot engine, to forestall suspicion of a hot engine, particularly from our FBI trained investigator mom, who was sure to spot any infraction. Anyway, it is what it is. Guys must be guys. In all of this, we did not lose sight of the lessons. We were taught and we imbibed the ideals of hard work, which we were told to be the prelude to a successful life. We were taught that nothing good comes cheap, and that there is no shortcut to success in life than hard work and commitment to your chosen career. Those lessons paid off and helped a great deal in my rise through the ranks to become a professor and the dean of the Faculty of Agricultural Sciences in Ekiti State University. I must not fail to mention that my journey in life took me at some point to the eastern part of Nigeria, where I had my youth service and my master's program. In those days, the East welcomed me with open arms. It gave me the best opportunity of appreciating the culture, mentalities, norms, and idiosyncrasies of others, and the need for a harmonious relationship. This taught me a lot of tolerance with the understanding of different cultural backgrounds. I was fully accepted into their fold. I had cordial and almost filial relationship with my supervisor, Professor F.C.O. Bioa, who took me as a son. And on a lighter note, I almost brought home an Igbo lady as a wife. Those were days when we saw each other as one, unlike today when the apparent divide is very disturbing. Talking about passion, my experience in the computer world woke up my latent talent in ICT, and this motivated me to later establish a computer outfit in Akure, Ondo State called Workman Computers. This company was an instant success, even though with a lot of rough takeoff. Workman is still flourishing under the management of my wife while I've taken to academics. Another big lesson in entrepreneurship. My worry is the continual slide in our social values with a concomitant depreciation in ethos of hard work and dignity in labor. Unfortunately, our new generation of youths have stood these ideals on their heads, believing that they can start life from the peak of life. The current situation and mindset of a sizable number of our youth stem from the growing decadence of our society and the lack of proper planning for the teeming youth by the successive governments in Nigeria. We seem to continuously mortgage our future by disregarding the spate of the conscienceless youths we breed today. Concerted effort must come from parents, opinion leaders, government, religious leaders, teachers, at all levels of education and the youths to correct this cankerworm which makes us appear to be sitting on a keg of gunpowder. All hope is not lost. I am a believer in a Nigeria that will work. I hold on tightly to the tiny but strong rope of hope that with a will to make the difference, we can change the narrative. Our children must learn from those rosy days of ours. Take the lessons, enjoy the tales, and make a positive move towards surpassing our modest achievements. Yes, it can happen. Proudly a Rotarian, I therefore join Sir Shemori Badejo in this collective patriotic drive towards a greater tomorrow for our youths. And even for us too, it is possible. It is achievable. Thank you and God bless.
Who has the right of way? Nigerian roads come with a lot of chaos. The chaos is caused by a combination of drivers, motorcycle and tricycle riders, pedestrians, and sellers who all claim the right of way. The chain of right of way holders in Nigeria is hierarchical, and car and motor drivers are at the top of the chain with pedestrians at the bottom. Car or motor drivers believe that they always have the right of way regardless, and motorcycle and tricycle riders don't even have any regard for who has the right of way. For fear of accidents and their lives, pedestrians have learned to cower. When a collision occurs, the question of who has the right of way is on the lip of all concerned as they try to figure out who is guilty. The law doesn't grant anyone the right of way, but you yield it to other road users under these circumstances. At a yield sign, to pedestrians in a crosswalk, to persons using a seeing eye guide dog, to persons using a white cane with or without a red tape, at T intersections where you must yield to vehicles on the through road, at uncontrolled intersections where vehicles are already in the intersection, when driving on an unpaved road that intersects with a paved road, when returning to the roadway after a car is parked. Pedestrians must always be yielded the right of way at intersections and crosswalks. Treat bicycles as motor vehicles. Yield to bicyclists in all situations where you would yield to a car. For example, wait for an oncoming bicycle to pass before turning left. Turn right at a red light if it's permitted and no vehicles are approaching. If you see a sign that says no right turn on red, then you must wait for the light to turn green again. Otherwise, you must turn right at a red light after yielding to oncoming traffic. Stop for pedestrians who've begun crossing the road. Once a pedestrian has begun crossing the road, they have the right of way. You should also stop for pedestrians waiting to cross at crosswalks that aren't controlled by a traffic light. Yield to oncoming traffic if you're entering a main road.
Hello people, ẹ káalẹ́, ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò yìí. Ẹ ṣé tẹ́ ń gbọ́ wa lálẹ́ òní. That was me thanking you for watching us tonight in my native dialect Yoruba. Orúkọ mi ni Olúwadámilọ́lá Ìbítóyè, and you're welcome to your favorite primetime television show, Ways. It's our season break special as we round off the year and mark our 4th year anniversary. I want to highlight why I love Ways and the impact it has had on me personally and on my journey onto TV, by answering 10 personal questions about Ways as it fits into my life. Yeah, why do I think Ways exist? Well, in my opinion, Ways exists to educate and address the everyday events as it affects the society around us and at large. So yeah, my personal mission in life is to be a better version of myself at every time and in every season. And of course, yes, Ways definitely aligns with my purpose in life, because on this show, I have literally watched myself grow in stature, and it has been a very beautiful experience. Ways also avails the constant opportunity. That will be when we had Gloria Olufeko on the show, although I wasn't even scheduled to co-anchor that day, but then I watched it from home and I could resonate with it totally. Sometimes I don't even want to be me, them not even lie. But yeah, so I'm the Internal Control Officer and Client Relationship Manager for Parallax Consulting Limited, who is also the parent body and the production company that produces this show. So my job cuts across all departments, as my role is to ensure that all policies are followed, all members of staff are carrying out their duties, and deliverables are being delivered as at when due. Also, to manage a good relationship between the company and the clients, while also understanding their needs and ensuring they are met. I love my job because it makes me improve on interpersonal relationships and a great sense of diplomacy. Trust me, I've had to learn serious diplomacy on my job, so I'm really happy. What am I most proud of? Well, I think I'm most proud of myself. I'm most proud of my growth this year. It feels like it's been a really long and eventful year, and a lot of growth has taken place in terms of letting go of what no longer serves me, pushing through and beyond my limits, taking up new challenges, getting better at conflict resolution, emotional maturity, and so on and so forth, really. But yeah, I'm very grateful for growth this year. I'm very scared of failure, and I'm very scared of uncertainty. I mean, the truth is that sometimes I think about it and I'm like, what if we go through all of this for nothing? But then again, I say to myself, God forbid, really. I mean, but then it can be really crazy sometimes. But yeah, I mean, we pull through all the time. And yes, of course, uncertainties also make my already anxious mind race even faster. Well, we are managing. What obstacles have I overcome this year? Okay. I think that would be a battle against my own mind because, having battles against yourself is one major thing that people really overlook these days. And yes, I'm really grateful for it because imposter syndrome is a real thing. And now I believe that I deserve all the fine things of life. So if I was to be elected president for a day, what's the number one thing I would do? So as cliche as this sounds, I would love to eradicate poverty in this country. So much so that poverty is no longer used as a political tool because poverty being used as a political tool has gotten us nowhere. And that's what all these politicians can just say, okay, I mean, because the people are poor, they can just, do anyhow because they know that if they give them just small money, because people who have not been exposed to money before, once they see little money, I mean, you are literally their Lord and Savior. So I would eradicate poverty so much so that it is no longer a political tool. All right, so media is a powerful force that influences public opinion, shapes national identity, and contributes to the overall development and transformation of a nation. Its role in disseminating information, promoting accountability, fostering cultural understanding, and influencing societal norms makes it an essential component of nations' growth and progress. Definitely. Well, how do I unwind? In different ways, but I'll mention a few. So I unwind by watching movies. I love to watch movies with my family, with my loved ones, because, it gives us that sense of, bonding. We're probably talking over the movie and stuff. I love the water so much. I have a love-hate relationship with water, I'm very scared of water, but I love to be by the water side. I love to be on the water. I even love to be in the water. So, of course, I unwind by going to the beach, and I love to sit in silence. I love solitude a lot, so it works for me so well. My favorite show this year, I think I said it earlier, I'll say it again, would be when Gloria Olufeko was on the show. She spoke about the impact of communication on successful career, and it's something I could genuinely resonate with. So in case you can't remember, watch this. I'll see you soon.
Thanks for staying with us now. Effective professional communication is about conveying important information from one source to another. If that information is communicated clearly and effectively, businesses are most likely to run efficiently. Now, a worker who learns his boss's preferred communication and decision-making styles is less likely to make mistakes that hurts his advancement prospects. Managers are also more likely to advocate for workers who ask how to carry out a task properly or present multiple solutions for problems that may arise on the job in a clear and effective manner. Now, we all know that nearly every job posting contains the word strong communication skills or effective communication skills. So today we're asking, what is the proper communication and what impact does it have on career advancement? Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-8038-384-663, or you can also tweet at us at Wayshow Africa 1 with the hashtag Wayshow. So I'll bring in our guest in a minute, but I just want to hear your thoughts, because you see, I've seen people, they will speak, they don't talk everything they want to talk, but you cannot make sense out of it. There's one thing to talk, there's another thing for you to effectively communicate that whatever it is that you have just said. A lot of times there's always a mix-up, and that's why you see so many, people you're not able to assimilate or comprehend what the other party is saying, and you always find conflict. People are not able to also communicate effectively what qualities that they carry. I see some people, when they talk, you really want to just go with them, but some people that are even more skilled, better, excellent at what it is that they're doing, because they're not able to communicate that, they're not being promoted, they're not being, advanced in their careers. So it's just a lopsided kind of thing.
Yeah.
But let me hear your thoughts quickly, then I'll hear EC, then we'll come to the guest.
You've said well. It's very true that those are the things that we see today. There are some people who just, what they have to say is in their head. That's another thing. Putting it out there, putting it in words.
Completely different thing.
Is a completely, I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine, and he was trying to imply we were saying the same thing, but we were using the same phrase, but it was very obvious we meant it in different ways. He says, life is give and take. Mm-hmm. And I say, and he was talking about giving. Giving out either money, financial, or help or something. And I said, my ideology of life is an open hand would never lack. And he said, life is give and take. I said, it seems like we're saying the same thing, but we're not. I'm saying this is how I live my life. So I live giving not to expect. You live giving to expect. And because you have expectations, you would always be let down. I give, and it comes because I do not have expectations. Do you understand? And he kept saying, hey, but you're saying the same thing. I said, no, we're not saying the same thing. We might be using the same phrase, but we mean it in two different ways. So that is part of it. And we had this argument for almost 30 minutes. And I just said, you know what?
You have time.
I call it a truce, and we'll get back to work. So, we went back to work. But yes, it's one thing to communicate, and it's another thing to communicate effectively, how the other person will be able to understand and be able to respond appropriately.
Let me hear your thoughts, AC.
Yes, NJ, I totally agree with what NJ says, but there's also something that also there's something I also know that we should also take into cognizance, which is the saying that says that the type of adjectives you use makes me understand the kind of person you are. So if you have to communicate effectively using the right adjectives. Also, you should also use the words you want to, the precise words you want to use to express your point of view, which was the problem NJ and her peer had. And we also need to also look at that phrase which you had, which was communication works for those who work at it. If you do not work at it, if you do not go the extra mile to think about the message you want to pass across, think about who you are passing that message across to, and then you now sit down and construct what is that message you want to send to the recipient. Then there is a challenge. That is where there is miscommunication. And that is where you don't have a concise and clear communication. What's it called? A clear and concise communication expressed immediately right there and then. So we have to also take all of these into cognizance, because communication is about purpose, message, and recipient.
Absolutely. So let me bring in our guest. Gloria Olufeko, also known as Dr. Glow, is an international event host, an award-winning radio presenter, diction coach, voice-over artist, and communications specialist. As a West Africa Broadcast Media Academy certified MC and compere, Gloria has hosted myriad of events in Nigeria and other African countries. Now, she is currently the head of media and communications at Luminous Hills Investment Limited, one of Nigeria's pace-setting providers of real estate solution. She's also the founder of TGO Media, which is a media and brand communications firm that caters to media coverage and hosting services for events. And she is graced our studio, looking all radiant in her yellow. Hi, Gloria.
Hello.
Hello, NJ.
How are you doing?
Thank you.
Let's first of all get that out of the way.
Very bright.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you too?
I mean, so this conversation,
Yeah.
right? I think because again we're in really tough times right now, and every single thing you do would either make you or mar you.
Absolutely.
Especially career-wise and growth, right? So it's important that we begin to touch on some things that we do recklessly, or some things that we do not pay attention to that can actually change the trajectory. So I remember going on Instagram and I saw a write-up. In fact, I even said, I screen grabbed that write-up. I said, wow, I think it's high time for you to sit down, look at the structure of how this person has communicated what they do, and go back and replicate that for your brand. You do a lot, but you're not able to put those pieces together. Like, I'm far, far better from where I started, but I am still not where I want to be. Because when I see some people write up, and they will just write all the, I said, but this thing this person is writing, I do much more than this. But how come I'm not able to communicate it right? Because again, it doesn't just stop at career in terms of like a work environment. Career even as an entrepreneur, career even as a brand, right? If you're not able to properly communicate what it is that you do to your audience, you are likely not going to grow. The difference between people, like you see all these brand influencers, celebrities and all of that, go and check. They have gotten their communication excellently well. They are able to pass the message clearly. So you do not mix any, you don't have any mixed feelings about who they are. You know what they are about. And that's why you see that their growth trajectory is just, there. Instead of the ones that are, today they're confused, where are you? So, I mean, just help us out here. Because when we talk about proper communication, what does it mean? Is it about the speaking right, or what exactly is proper communication, and how can it advance, one's career?
Oh, great question. And it's such an amazing to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I mean, proper communication is you letting somebody know what your intent is and they get it. So it's a place of you not miscommunicating. So proper communication, what's your intent, what you have to say, and do they get what you have to say? A lot of people just let people in on what they have to say. This is what I'm all about. But they do not wait. Does this person understand what I have to say? What's the feedback? And I loved what you touched on, Uwa. You talked about celebrities, influencers, how that many people know what these people stand for. They've been able to communicate their brand in such a way that people already know that this is what they stand for, this is what they do. Okay, so how can you communicate your brand as a person, and then people are able to receive you and they understand what you're doing? It's proper communication. So from your intent to your passing the message, and then the person at the receiving end understands clearly that this is what you're saying. And let's come home to career. I mean, when I started out as event hosting, diction coaching and all of that, a lot of people were like, Gloria, are you doing everything? How do we understand what you're doing, what you stand for? How do we understand that, oh, Gloria is an event host, or Gloria is a diction coach? But what I was able to do was I was able to intertwine everything to media. Okay, so I host events, I teach you how to sound right, I'm still communicating. Hosting events, I'm helping brands communicate their message. Sounding right, I'm helping you as a person communicate properly. So people were able to get that way that, okay, Gloria is into the media. So as a human being, as a brand, how well are you able to let people in on what you're doing, and they get it? So anybody watching me right now at home and you're wondering that, how do I even allow people to know or get people to understand that this is what I do? First off, be very clear. Know yourself, what you're doing. Be very spot on. Carve your niche. Let them know that Uwa she's a TV presenter. NJ is a TV presenter. So when you see Uwa someday probably at an engineering workshop fixing a car, you're asking yourself, Uwa, when did you start fixing the car? Do you dig? So let people, you yourself, you need to be very clear about what you're doing, because sometimes when you're not clear about what you're doing, it's difficult to communicate to people what you're doing. So you need to, first of all, internalize what you're doing, carve a niche for yourself. Let it register in people's minds that this is what you're doing. I think that's the very first step to take as we go and I'll share more steps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So when it comes to communication, I feel like communication in the workplace helps you a lot because it creates that confidence.
Yeah.
Because I've realized a lot of people, when you lack that communication skill, most times they're a bit more timid. You know, you want to lag behind. You don't want to be the one to. You're not up for giving suggestions or talking in public environments. You're very timid. What do you have to say? Oh, nothing. Nothing. I'm okay. But when you're an effective communicator, you have that confidence, you know, and people tend to. Even with the confidence comes trust. You see some people and they're saying a lot of rubbish. You're looking at them, you're wondering, but other people are nodding like, and you're wondering, what are you guys? It's the confidence. It's the confidence that they're, you know,
You need to spew nonsense.
yes, and they're talking, and you're looking at and you're wondering, what is this person saying? But because of the way they're speaking, people are nodding and saying, wow, even if she's saying rubbish, that rubbish makes sense. But so it's part of it, you know, it creates some level of trust. And if I can speak freely within the work environment, it helps for a lot of things. It helps with teamwork. It helps you be able to collaborate with your team, and it goes far. Like there are a lot of benefits to it when you say within the workplace and everything. Like for me, when I go to certain environments, because you have the look and because you can communicate effectively, most of the time I'm pushed to the front and say, oh, NJ, oh no, do this,
us.
you know, represent us.
So I'll push a question to you, but we'll do that after the break. From what she said, right?
Yeah.
How do people that are like in work environments that are timid, how do they start to, you know, build that confidence?
Absolutely.
You know, we'll do that, but let's go on a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we're discussing proper communication and its impact on career advancement with Gloria Olufeko. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at Wayshow Africa1 or the hashtag Wayshow. All right, so Gloria, based on what NJ had talked about, confidence, right? Because I know that, again, if you're knowledgeable and you're able to communicate effectively, it gives you this kind of courage that you're not intimidated. You can always hold your ground in boardrooms, anywhere you find yourself, especially in the workspace. So when someone is dealing with that timidity or whatever, how do they even start? What's the process?
Okay, I mean, great question. I've been asked this question quite a number of times. Gloria, I'm shy. How do I start? Most especially for event hosts. But let's bring it home. We're talking about career development here. I have colleagues that are shy and they're really scared to voice out their displeasure. Probably they had a brawl with the boss or with their colleague and they're like, Gloria, I don't even know how to approach my boss to tell them I'm not pleased with this. So what I would say is first, start small. Start small with proper communicating with your colleagues. How do you share your thoughts with your colleagues? I know we might want to say, oh, you want to talk to your boss, it's my boss I'm having issues with. But first off, how do you communicate your displeasure to your colleagues? Or your colleague comes late to work and you're not happy about it. How do you let them in on it? Okay? So I'm not happy you came late to work. You shouldn't be coming late to work. Don't you think you should do this better? So when you're able to start small that way, communicate with your colleagues, then you can grow into communicating with your boss. And I'm sure that in every company there's hierarchy where you have the CEO, then your line manager, exactly, your director. So just before you jump the level of going to the CEO, how well do you communicate with your line manager? How well do you communicate with the HR? Now that's a lot of people make that mistake. They do not have a personal communication with the HR. It's very important. We're talking career, right? And that's why I'm making mention of the HR. HR is, most companies, they do a lot of work in getting proper HR department because they feel like that's one of the strongest departments of any company that will thrive. So how do you as an individual communicate? You have a relationship with your human resource manager. It's very important because many a times we find out that shy people would rather talk to the HR and then the HR does the talking to the boss, okay? So ensure that you have and you build a personal relationship with your human resource manager. Start small. That way, you begin to find your voice.
Absolutely. I like where you're going with the conversation because HR is quite important and
Sensitive.
very integrate for any organization to thrive. Because if you have the wrong recruit as an HR manager, it's very likely that the companies will just go down.
That's right.
And again, when you talk about career advancement, those are the people that will then sit down to say, okay, I think this person is due for a promotion.
Exactly.
This person has displayed some level of growth and all of that. So it's quite, what's it called, important what you mentioned.
Well, I was about even adding that when you are shy and your HR understands that you're a shy person, you can't speak for yourself. You mentioned just now that your HR will be the one to put a word for you during promotion process that, oh, don't you think that we should take a look at this person's work? Because you have built a relationship with your HR. So even if your colleagues do not see a reason, your HR sees a reason for you to get that promotion. You're doing so well. You're not vocal, you're not out there, you're not outspoken, but you're getting the work done.
As long as you're diligent
Exactly,
at your
you're
work.
diligent at your work. So your HR is able to put a word for you before your CEO and then you get what you're looking for.
All right, Isi, you have a question for our guest?
Yes, totally, I do. Hi, Gloria.
Hello.
My
Isi.
question is, let's talk about innovation in the workplace and communication skills. How important is this what's the influence of communication skills to an effective innovation space in the workplace?
All right, Isi, I mean, when I understand what you mean by innovation is you have ideas, you have new ideas to share and you want to communicate it, okay? So I'm sure that we have teams. Every workplace has a team. And so as you go on in your journey, your career, you'll definitely be put into teams. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'm very sure that whilst you were trying to get the job, your interview process, the question they'll ask you is, can you work in a team? Do you know how to handle teamwork? Are you a team player? And then a lot of us say, yes, we are team players. Okay. But then again, when it comes to you acting out that's your attribute as a team player, it begs the question that you have an idea to share. You have something to share. Can you share with your team first? Let them believe in what you have. Then when it is done, you can now put it out there. So you have an idea to share at work. You have something. Then another thing is approaching your boss. Many a times we have such brilliant ideas. Okay, let me give you an example. So I work for a real estate company, and I think about 2 days ago, the HR was trying to employ a video guy to work with us in the media department because I headed the media department, and we had lots and loads of entries, applications. And then I just thought about it that, okay, why can't the HR just start the application process now instead of waiting for the window period of application to elapse before starting? And how did I go about communicating my thoughts and my idea to the HR? I simply walked up to him. I knocked his door. Hello, sir. I think that it's better you start the interview process now instead of waiting till the entire window period elapses. Why? So that you're able to thoroughly do a proper interview for everybody and you don't have quite a number of persons. You know the way interview processes can be in Nigeria, where you have a lot of people standing outside for interviews. But if you do it in batches, I think it's going to help us get the best. And I was, that's amazing, Gloria. Thank you very much for that. I'll look into it. Okay. So you being able to communicate first up with your team, and then you can also, your HR is, I'm very big on HR.
I can see.
See, I'm very big on HR.
Now, I'm big on HR.
I don't know how many companies actually use HR a lot.
No, but guess what? So I have a consultant HR for my company, and she's been doing an amazing job. Right? It's a tough place to be because I see that she's the one that takes on all the burden, all the complaints. But you see that once you're able to put in that structure, and if you have the right person, like I said, HR has to be unbiased. HR has to be someone that has excellent, impeccable communication skills.
Absolutely.
Because you are the one that will be able to listen in on, grievances and complaints, and you're the one that will also communicate that to the superior authorities.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of things that you need to, because you are managing the people within the organization. So if it is gotten wrong, trust me, it's not going to work. But I was just going to ask that there are people in organizations that have made it a point of duty that they would not see you grow, right? They're oppressive, in their style. They are, they are not those kind of people that are like team players. They'll rather want to be the one to be seen that I am the one doing the job, right? So if you are in that kind of an environment, what do you advise? How would you communicate that fear, and if you're not able to communicate that fear, is it advised that you just probably tender in your resignation and leave the organization? Or how do you manage those kind of things? Because if you have those kind of people in your team, it's very likely that you might never grow in that company. So how do you go about that?
Well, that's a deep question. Because I have had my own fair share of that. Wow, really, NG, where you're doing all the work. But then when it comes to presentation time, okay, we brainstormed together. Everybody brought their A's, their B's, their C's. And I did the work, I did the research. And when it's time to present, you tell me you want to go for the presentation because you're going to be the one to get the well done at the end of the entire presentation. Okay, how do you handle such? First off, you have to be very wise, because God help you. The person that is going to do the presentation and wants to be at the forefront is your boss. Yeah, because many a times it's easier when it's your colleague. You can easily walk up to your colleague and say, come, please, I don't understand. We did this thing together. How is it that you want to take the shine for the entire team? Okay? It's easier that way. But when it comes to your boss, what I would say, this might not go down well with everybody, but what I would say is, first off, just allow them first off. Allow them take the shine. Allow them do what they want to do. Allow them show that they're the ones taking the glory for whatever work it is you've done. And then later on, you can walk up to the HR again. Or whoever it is that you submit to. You have a line manager. Let them know that we actually do the work together. And that's why I'm very big on you being able to communicate in your workplace. If you've established the foundation of communication, where everybody is open to talk to each other, where everybody is not afraid of being shut down, or you create such, and that's why I'm always big on telling employers to ensure that they create an environment where the employees are free to talk, access. You are able to let me in on what you're going through. It helps you thrive and it helps you develop in your career. Now imagine a situation where you are shut down when you want to speak, nobody's listening to you. There's every tendency that I will just tender my resignation and go, and I'm not even going to bat an eyelid about that. But when there's already an environment where everybody can speak, where everybody is free to let their thoughts out, it's easy for you to walk up to your line manager or to your boss and let them in and tell them that we actually did this work together. And so if this person continues to take shine for what I have done, I might as well just call quits and go. And if it's a very good organization, your manager should be able to do something about it. They'll be able to resolve it.
Let's take that comment, NJ, then we'll see.
This comment is from Austin from Delta. The essence of communication can't be overemphasized. No matter the career, communication is key, because without effective communication, dealing with a stubborn customer might boomerang. Even in religious circles, any pastor who communicates poorly in this 21st century will be put off his educated and enlightened audience, no matter the anointing. Hence, such pastors should go and acquire some communication skills. Come to the corporate world. That is why public affairs officers are engaged to speak on behalf of the company, because they are well schooled in that field. Do you know that using a word inappropriately can cause a company to pay huge money liable? Front desk officers, image makers must continually go for orientation. Uwa, welcome back.
Thank you. What do you say? I like what he's saying.
Yeah,
because you see, you are the image of the company, front desk of. In fact, I feel like even the security guard, everyone in the organization should be able to communicate properly at every point in time. Because you see, there's a language. Because we have been talking about what comes out of your mouth. There is a non-verbal communication that I was even going to come to. That how are we presenting ourselves non-verbally that is communicating a very wrong image of who we're supposed to be, and it's not making us grow? How are we doing that?
You know, people will say that people believe you more by what you've not said than by what you said. Because what you say sometimes, that's why a lot of people say, don't do as I say, but do as I do, right?
Do as I
do as I say, don't do as I do.
Yeah.
Okay. But then again, what you don't do is even more important than what you've done. Because in whatever it is one person said, trust me, there are lots of unsaid statements behind. So how do you ensure that you are not misunderstood when you speak? Because I've gotten a lot of messages, Gloria, a lot of times, this is not what I intended saying. And the issue is, people always expect that you're supposed to understand how I feel. You're supposed to understand that this is what I'm trying to say. But how do you expect me to know that this is what you're trying to say if you do not let me know that this is what you're trying to say?
And your body language is not even helping
matters, okay? So, for example, you're telling me you are angry, and then have you seen people angry and smiling at the same time? Yes, they're angry at you, but they're smiling, and that's why you hear, this one that you're smiling at me, I know you're angry, please can you just let me know exactly what it is you're thinking in your heart? Okay, so when you speak, be very careful of your body language, your eye movement, your hand gesticulations, how you respond. Do you nod your head? Do you smile? Do you... Be very careful of your body language, because it's non-verbal communication. There's verbal communication, just what NJ is doing to Uwa right now. So there's verbal communication, non-verbal communication, which we have underneath the gesticulation, body movement, and all of that. And then the written communication that we use in our place of work, emails, text messages, and all of that. So what you do not say is sometimes important than what you've said. So be very careful, because so you wouldn't be misunderstood.
Let me come to you, Isi.
Actually, I was going to talk about verbal and non-verbal communication earlier when I said I wanted to ask a question. However, there is also another question I want to ask, which has to do with being a diction coach. What has been your experience trying to interact with individuals who are seeking to boost their career or enhance the growth of their career, basically, in an organization? What has been your greatest challenge having to interact with them, and what is the right language to use in an office, basically?
Okay, being a diction coach, I love the fact that Isi touched on that, because it's quite an interesting part of what I do, helping individuals and businesses communicate properly when it comes to diction. I mean, when you are in a corporate environment, you're supposed to speak formally, okay, but we know we are still having that discrepancy between using sir in Nigerian business environment, because the white people do not use sir, ma. They call their bosses by their first names. But in a Nigerian formal environment, people still cringe a little bit when you call your boss by your first name. We have some companies that actually allow you call your boss by your first name, okay? But then it gets to a point where, you have to put the oga, or oga this, oga that, sir, ma. But the white people do not really take that quite seriously. So I just let people know that whatever it is you're doing, ensure that you're not disrespectful. Insubordination is not tolerated in a place of work. Be very formal as possible, whatever it is that you're doing. Speak appropriately when you're in the office.
So when you say appropriate speaking in the office, sorry to cut you short. The use of our native language, like our native dialect rather, right? In an office environment, is that even proper? Even though we say that, okay, yes, we're Nigerians and all of that, given that in a proper organization, there are different tribes and tongues there. Is it right for you to speak in your native language when, isn't that rude when somebody else is by your side and the person cannot even understand what it is that you're saying.
Of course, it's rude. It's not
So
right.
why do we do that?
Well, I feel like we just need to keep on.
See that it's from a pain point.
Exactly. Who is really pained about this issue? NJ, I'm feeling it, really.
I understand it. I've been in an office environment where I walked in and we were having a meeting.
Okay.
And the meeting started and it started in Yoruba. And I'm like,
what's going on here?
do you understand? Am I supposed to be part of this meeting? And somewhere in between, my boss actually looked at me and said, oh, NJ, so what do you have to say? And I'm like, I wasn't listening.
Because you didn't understand the language.
No, it's not whether I understand the language or not. That was not the language for this meeting.
Actually.
So even if I used to tell them in my office, I said I switch off and on. So I'm not Yoruba, I'm Igbo. So you can't start a meeting speaking Yoruba and you expect me to just have something to say in between. I don't speak Yoruba. So at that point in time, my dictionary is...
So is it okay?
And you're not even only meetings.
Yeah.
You have your colleagues together, you're in a room.
Yeah.
And probably you're the only one whose dialect is different.
Yeah.
And probably they're trying to communicate something between themselves, and then they just switch to their dialect, and you're looking and you're wondering that, can you please at least speak English? Let's respect the fact that we are... And people do not know that they are subtly planting tribalism that way. It's just a subtle planting. You really do not know, because people begin to say, oh, we are Yoruba or we are Igbo, and then they're causing a division at work, okay? So English is what's proper for business environment. So please, let's just speak English.
Because I've seen people being promoted because they can speak very good Yoruba. Huh?
You see?
One quick one, please. What about the use of email in an office environment, basically? We use emails to interact, basically, to individuals or our bosses or our peers. What's the right tone or tonality that we're supposed to imbibe in an office environment when we're using an email? Is it okay for us to express our displeasure, especially when we are upset with a peer in an email?
Wow. Emailing is another aspect of communication for businesses, because when you're trying to express your displeasure in an email, in as much as you're angry, you have to tone it down a little bit, because an email is a formal document and it's also a legal document. It can be used against you. And that's why you need to be very careful while you're trying to express your displeasure in an email. But I just feel like, why send a mail to a colleague when you can just call the person and just...
No. There are some colleagues that you have to document it.
I agree. But then again...
And I agree
So
with you
they've
also,
told
it
me
can come
this
back to
thing
bite
that
you.
my emails comes across as harsh, right? So I
yeah.
have learned to stick to the issue, not put any emotion in the email, but detail
Hit it
the
on-
issue. Do you understand? It's very important because, again, we're in an environment where people can deny that, oh, there was
There was no
issue.
conversation.
Do you understand? So if you're, especially if it is a colleague that you're trying so hard to correct something that has been repeatedly done wrongly, if the person, just make sure you stick to the issue, detail it point by point. Hello, papa, write it point
Be
by point.
objective.
Without emotions, you'll be fine.
Yes.
But I strongly believe to always email things. Please.
For evidence.
For evidence.
For evidence, especially with a stubborn colleague.
Ha!
God help you, you've had a conversation beforehand and the person is not listening. You see me in the email.
Absolutely. But thank you so much. Good. We have to bring you back. We had an amazing time. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you,
me.
NJ. Thank you, Isi.
Thank
Now,
you.
before we go, ensure you follow us across all our social media handles at Wayshow Africa. You can interact with us further. We had a fantastic conversation. Remember to keep liking, sharing, and commenting. Invite your families and friends to also watch and follow the conversation. Now, if you missed our quote for today, here it is again. Communication works for those who work at it. So you really must be deliberate about communication, because that really can change your, it can advance you very quickly in your career. So pay attention. Seek EC, seek glory. They will help you out.
Thank you for staying with us. I hope you enjoyed watching and getting up close and personal with me as I enjoyed sharing with you. Media is a powerful tool with the ability to shift the minds of the youth in a progressive trajectory, and I will continue to do my part through ways. Thank you for watching and supporting the Ways brand. As we wind down for the year, please remember that all we need is love. Love for self, for family, for neighbor, for country, and for humanity. Ẹ ṣé gan tẹ́ ń wò wá, tẹ́ dẹ̀ gbọ́ wá lálẹ́ òní yìí. Ẹ rí dájú pé ẹ sinmi dáadáa, kẹ́ dẹ̀ gbádùn holiday yín. See you tomorrow at 8 p.m. and happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Many people are often in psychological conflict between individuality and societal expectations. Thus, due to not knowing any better, or sometimes out of the audacity of thinking that they do, many tout these norms and expectations as the one single version of the truth. Oftentimes, we are judged by them, driving many to sacrifice the happiness they can attain as unique individuals for the rule of society that do not really matter in the grand scheme of things, and that many do not even sincerely follow themselves. Well, here's what I say. Flout their tout. A wise person once said, "Don't base your decisions on the advice of those who don't have to deal with your issues." The fact that you have remained single for a long time, especially if you're a woman, is often viewed as some kind of stigma in many parts of the world, even in the so-called liberal parts of society. But I'm here to tell you that regardless of what your relationship status is, and in fact, and now I'm ad-libbing, irrespective of what your status, your age, your phase of life is, you are in an enviable position because you have the opportunity to write a new script for yourself, to create a beautiful, wonderful, and fulfilling life. So no, do not keep your head down. That is the last thing that you should do. Do not compare your life to others. You have no idea what their journey is all about, Woody Hayes said. My name is Adefunke Adeyemi, or Funke for short. I'm an advocate and the regional director for the International Air Transport Association in Africa, looking after external affairs and sustainability. So I have to confess that this was not the first book that I thought I had in me. Many people who know me know that I can be quite academic, and the work that I've been doing over the years as a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, and also the work I've been doing over the years has lent itself to policy issues, economics, aviation, trends, and things like that. So I thought that I was going to write something academic. I'm also a Pan-African, so I'm really, really passionate about Africa and how we can seamlessly connect the continent and integrate it better. So I also have that in me. And yes, I will get there one day, but I didn't think that this was the first message that I was going to write in the form of a book. So it was a particular incident that sparked this off. And it was an issue that someone who was very close to me did that I thought was really disillusioning and, somewhat disturbing at the time. Not going into details, but basically it was just a question of me not understanding that, we were not on the same page, right? And so it became something that I needed to deal with and cope with. And typically, when I have something and I'm dealing with that's ruminating in my mind, I write. I've always loved words. I mean, I've been reading voraciously since the age of 5. I read everything in my father's library, including encyclopedias and things like that. So I've always loved words. I love the power of words. I love the way that they evoke emotion, the way that they can make you escape, the way they can transport you to different places. And so, the natural home for me to cope with the emotions I was dealing with from that incident was to write something down. It also coincided with the time that I was traveling on a business trip. And so once I got on the plane, I just started dumping my thoughts, just started putting stuff down on my laptop. So it started out as a dump, right? Just to cope with a particular incident. But then as I was on that business trip, I started to think about it more and more as a message that the world needed to hear. And so on that trip, within 36 hours, I had banged out the first 3 chapters of the book. Now that was in 2016. So this has been a 5-year journey. I launched it, I finished it in 2021 and launched, the first few days in 2022. So it took 5 years. So I have to tell you, it's been overwhelming and very, very surprising. And I know the question you're asking, I'm going to answer that. But it's been overwhelming. A lot of people who have read the book, I mean, even the most unlikely people. I was just telling someone in the store before we started that a 79-year-old woman, my friend's mother, read the book and said, wow, I'm so excited by this book. And it's inspired me to pick up my life again at 79. So I was really blown away by that. So many different reviews. Someone said, oh, I've given it to my mentees and they're raving all about it. So many people say that they can relate to the message of the book. And now to your question, the simple message of the book is this, that no matter what age or phase or stage or relationship status you're in life, it's incumbent on you to, first of all, be unapologetically yourself. Secondly, to live the best life that we're called to do, because we're not called here for anything else, but first and foremost to be our best selves, and then to add on to that, be doing other things. And the other thing is that we're supposed to be using the totality of ourselves, and this is my own personal firm opinion, that we're to use the totality of ourselves, our gifts, our physical abilities, our talents, our passion, our interests, our experience, our exposure, everything that we have the opportunity to experience to impact the world positively around us. And the catch is, why not do this when you're either, one, single from the lens of never being married, or that you have been down that road and you're not anymore, or from the lens of someone who is called singular, which is the title of the book. And what do I mean by singular? It's such a wide and broad category. Did you know that empty nesters are singulars? Their children have gone off to boarding school, or they've gone off to school or university, or they're starting out in life. And now you're home alone. Objectives and goals for your own life in order to do that. So it's now time for you to get back to it. Did you also know that it is for people who have been bereaved? You've lost your spouse, that relationship has ended. So what next? What do you do? My mom is in this category and I talked to her about it and she gets it. She understands what this message is about. And there's so many in there. But it's not just about women, it's men too. Now to the literary world, I'm so impressed, honestly. Like there's a boom of writers all around. I mean, before now, we know that some of the greats have come from Nigeria and Africa. We have, Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka, Buchi Emecheta, Ben Okri. There's so many of them that have been absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite books is So Long a Letter by Miriam Abba, a Senegalese writer, a forerunner of her time, a pace setter, a female writer talking about constraints of a Muslim religious society and how she survived that. So there's so many wonderful examples and legacy examples to choose from. But more recently, there's been so much going on in the literary space. And I think we have some of our very prominent writers to thank for that. Like Chinamanda Adichie. She's done a great job putting writing by women and writing by Africans on the global stage. And I think that's really opened the door for a lot of people to think, well, I can do this too. If I feel like this is a passion for me or this is something that I'm interested in, then I can do it. So there's a lot of inspiration out there, but there can be a lot more. I know that so many people have stories within them that they want to tell. A lot of people don't know how to go about it. And I guess the message there is, you just start with your thoughts. Don't worry about the words, don't worry about format. Just start with putting your thoughts down, and then you can start to create, the structure around it. But if you have a story to tell inside you, go for it.
Star police switch to on, light on. Switching commander internal. Expectedly back, DW. Still same pressure, 62 on 55. Your nav state with back and is perfect.
Oftentimes when we see celebrities either on social media, television, or in person, we assume they have it all together, but we forget that they're also human. Well, here are some of the low points of some of your favorite celebrities.
So coming into Lagos and having to do like 5 jobs, at a time, my life has always been a balancing act, Time was when I was in this town. Funny you mention it. This entire area, I hip hop around this area. I start from NTA and begin to work my way gradually, end up here at Peck Theatre, and then at the Onikon Museum, and then at Racecourse. Story for another day.
So growing up, I wouldn't say I was born with a silver spoon, but I was okay. Dad had everything going on for us. And I lost him when I was 16. So at that point in my life, I had to start making decisions for myself, which was a bit difficult. And that was when I actually decided to become a DJ. When my dad was alive, he didn't want me to do entertainment. So I had to shape myself, take that decision. I remember leaving my house for 2 years at some point because I was chasing my dream. And all that basically has molded me into the man I am today.
I remember while I was in school, I would never imagine I would be the person today. I even, at some point, never had money to go to school. So what I would do, I would walk all the way to the bus stop and hope that when I get in the bus, I'll see a student like me that can pay for me before I get to Lasu Gate. But for real, life is like that, and we just take all these things and mold them into what makes us stronger. You mold all the struggle into dumbbell, use them to make yourself stronger. That's it. So for me, I can share a lot of experience with you that would make you drop your jaw and you'd be like, you went through all this.
I personally, I never saw the 4 walls of a university. But I found myself now being able to inspire and speak to a lot of audiences. And it's all about self-improvement. Having that drive to, I want to be better than who I am. I want to move. I want to be a positive change. I want to impact positively on the people. It is just one making that honest decision to push themselves rather than looking for the shortest cut by doing all sorts of, hanky-panky nonsense. We can. Only you can.
I've been so broke that I had to walk from Maryland to Ilukweju because I didn't have 15 hour transport money for bus. So yeah, I've been through that. And I didn't want to call anybody. This was something that I was like, I got to go through this on my own because I decided to get into the entertainment industry and chase after my dreams. Left my job. I was tired of calling family, parents, my father, my mother, my guardians to say, yo, I'm broke,
I was like, you know what, let's rough it, and I did, but here I am today. One of my worst experience then was when I premiered on radio. The first 2 weeks was hell because people was calling the radio station to some said they should arrest me, some said they should sack me, some said they should they don't like my voice. They just feel say I be worried, but are they rude, Then not be now we be like say comedian go come. Then a few comedians they. So when you go strange land and I no go a day, then when you go that kind of area we be like say the only comedians where they know that and Ikemowo or Sophia Sin, and you got they speak pidgin, and say comedian that time. If you hear person, you go be like say you they rude. And those Igbo people, they're not they take a likely at all. So the first 2 weeks for my radio career, they say me they sack me. First 3 weeks, so me and my friends, what will they do? People go call the radio station, say me they sack me. We can go buy card, 90 card. So when those people they call, my friends will go try to call the radio station, say, Mona Livamo, now our best presenter. But the funny thing is our calls not they go through. If we try call the radio station where they work, we know if they get the radio station. But the other people they call.
And the village people.
Yes, my village people, your blog the line.
A few years ago, 2012, I think, or 2013, I was on a music competition. I was on a music competition, and one of the judges said to me, I still know him, I'm not going to call him out. So he said that he doesn't feel like singing is something I should ever think of.
How did that make you feel?
I didn't feel bad because I'm precious.
And now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akuga as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome to the program. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mamode Akuga.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Bayelsa State Governor Senator Doye Diri has called for global intervention to prevent coastal communities in the Niger Delta from going into extinction. Governor Diri made the call recently at the United Nations Climate Change Summit, COP28, in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates.
The third event of the global coalition working towards an unsanctioned River Delta Convention, held recently at COP28 in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, where Bayelsa State Governor Doye Diri enumerated the peculiar negative impacts of climate change on Bayelsa communities, to include severe coastal erosion and seasonal flooding occasioned by rising sea levels. Governor Diri informed other participants at the UN summit that Bayelsa has been the most endangered state at the onset of seasonal coastal floods in Nigeria. Speaking further during the unveiling of the UN Convention for the Conservation of River Deltas at COP28, Governor Diri sought global assistance to prevent endangered coastal communities in the Niger Delta from going into extinction.
During my visit to the affected communities in this flood of 2022, I recognize the urgency in managing our deltas, water bodies, sea level risk, as well as pollution of our deltas. And this is why we join the deltas to unite and appeal to the rest of the world to work with us to address this situation.
Present at the unveiling of the Convention for the Conservation of River Deltas were experts, policymakers, and non-governmental organizations who raised concern over untold livelihood losses and human displacements imposed by climate change in sub-Saharan Africa and Asia. Professor Michael Clance of the University of Colorado in Boulder and Simi Ezdi, who chairs the Committee on Climate Change in Pakistan's parliament, expressed solidarity with the Bayelsa State Governor in his call for global action to prevent endangered communities in the Niger Delta from going into extinction.
We hope that this initiative will promote inclusive governance of water resources and give local communities more voice facing adverse consequences of climate change on water resources. We also look forward to collaboration in future to share best practices for the protection of river deltas.
The Niger Delta is one of the world's significant wetlands and has the largest mangrove ecosystem in Africa, making it a major concentration of biodiversity on the continent. Unfortunately, the region has witnessed untold biodiversity loss as a result of climate crisis. To get the international community more acquainted with the region's plight, Governor Diri has, on behalf of the Bayelsa State Government, promised to host the maiden edition of the Delta Unite, a global alliance built for conservation of river deltas, next year in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital.
Inside the Niger Delta.
The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has reiterated its commitment to embrace clean energy to keep pace with the rest of the world in the transition from fossil-based system of energy production to renewable sources. Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the NDDC, Dr. Samuel Ogbuku, made this known while speaking during a side event at the United Nations Conference on Climate Change in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates.
Speaking at the side event of COP28 with the theme Green Innovation for Climate Resilience, Developments in the Niger Delta, a credible approach for net zero targets, Dr. Samuel Ogbuku said the NDDC had made significant progress in the transition to renewable sources of energy production. Concerned about the impacts of climate change in the Niger Delta, Dr. Ogbuku said the intervention agency was already in partnership with Total Energies to increase investments in renewable energy projects. The NDDC boss hinted that plans had been concluded to train no fewer than 1,000 youth in the conversion of petrol-driven cars to run on compressed natural gas. Dr. Ogbuku observed that underdevelopment in the Niger Delta was largely caused by environmental degradation from many decades of crude oil exploration and production. He noted that those responsible for the ecological crisis witnessed in the Niger Delta were transnational oil and gas companies owned by rich countries of the West, who were ironically at the vanguard of the campaign for energy transition.
Up till now, gas flaring is still taking place in the Niger Delta part of Nigeria, and those who are culpable for this gas flaring are not Nigerian-owned companies, they are IOCs. Companies that belong to the countries that are part of this COP28, those initiators. So we're also appealing that the Conference of Parties shouldn't just be a lip service conference, it should be a conference for action.
In the course of interactions at the side event of the UN Climate Change Conference, Zoetic Global, a leading US-based climate impact company, and the NDDC agreed to go into a partnership to work together on green innovation.
We want to be a partner with you. I think as I saw the presentation that there's a number of things that we will be able to assist and help with carbon credits, with technologies to be able to help in the Niger Delta, and we look forward to that opportunity.
As a demonstration of its commitment to zero emission by 2050, the NDDC says it would make it mandatory for its contractors to embrace eco-friendly technologies in the execution of projects in no distant time.
Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, making a difference. Inside the Niger Delta. Azikil Group, oil and gas, dredging, power and air transportation. Azikil Group, petroleum product sufficiency, energy sustainability and infrastructure development.
Edo State, the heartbeat of the nation. Behold your son, Honorable Sergius Osaisoche Ogun, a politician of high integrity, transparency, competence, and honesty. A former two-time member of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Honorable Sergius Ogun is a name that is synonymous with credible leadership and good governance. A game changer, a beacon of hope, a champion for educational reforms, affordable healthcare, and infrastructural development. Honorable Sergius Ogun, National Daily Newspaper Lawmaker of the Year 2022. Honorable Sergius Ogun, Edo First, always. Delta State legislators and heads of government ministries, departments, and agencies are jointly calling for a united course of action toward the achievement of the policies, plans, and programs of the Right Honorable Sheriff Oborevwori-led administration in the state. Receiving the heads of ministries, departments, and agencies recently at the State House of Assembly to defend their proposed programs and projects for the 2024 fiscal year before their respective committees, the legislators emphasized the need for synergy between the executive and legislative arms of government to promote peace and progress in the state.
Delta State ministries, departments, and agencies recently appeared before their respective committees in the State House of Assembly to defend their proposed expenditures and programs for the 2024 fiscal year, in line with the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The exercise started 2 weeks ago, immediately after Governor Sheriff Oborevwori presented a 714.4 billion naira appropriation bill focusing on infrastructure renewal to the state legislators. The immediate budget defense will ensure the passage of the bill before the end of the year and prevent any delays in the implementation come 2024.
In working with my agenda, we need private partner in this ministry to give us affordable housing in Delta State.
The Ministry of Technical Education has therefore proposed a sum of 16 billion as what is needed for 2024.
The state legislators noted that the legislative arm would rather collaborate and support ministries, departments, and agencies of government in improving the lot of Deltans than antagonize their plans and programs.
Government of Delta State is one. We are in the legislature today. The executive is also there. But it's not one government for legislature and another one for the executive.
We are going to be partner in progress. I am not going to be a chairman of the House Committee on Waruwe and Environs and Food My Hand.
We'll use this budget as it is to touch the lives of Deltans in such a manner that even Deltans themselves will say that, yes, a very good budget and well implemented.
Commissioner for Housing, Godnose Angele, who spoke to journalists after the ministry's presentation, warned against unprofessional practices in the housing sector.
I've told people all the integrity tests must not be joked with. Any house you are building in Asaba, in the state, we have to follow up. You cannot do any shady job as far as this government is concerned, because we need more for the people of Delta State.
The